Welcome back to my garden. It is August 25th. It is the final tour of August, so let's get started. Today I want to start to go over some of the squash that I have now that I can kind of identify a little bit of what I have. I believe this one is a bonbon hybrid squash. They should finish around 4 pounds, I believe. This one I've yet to identify, and there are some much larger ones of this one, so I'll show you as I go along. This next one, I believe, is my early prolific straight neck, I think. I'm not too sure because there's just so many things planted that it's really hard to identify what is what. And with my garden, everything seems to be growing in a little bigger than it should, so it just adds to the difficulty of trying to identify things. Next, we have this big sucker, which I think is the same as, where'd you go? There you are, that little one over there. And you can see in here this absolutely massive one. I don't know which one this one is. I keep seeing things that look similar and Googling them, and I can't find anything that seems to match. So if anybody knows what this might be, heck, it might even be a melon. I'm really not sure, because I started it from some mystery seeds, so it's still a mystery to me. So if you think you can identify these squash, I would love to hear in the comments what you think it might be. Next we have these white flowers, which of course none of them are open because they are a night bloomer. So hopefully I remember to insert a photo after I'm done my little description here. But these are from a Cucuzzi Italian summer squash, which are also from those mystery seeds that I got from Buddy, but they're something that I've recently identified. So hopefully I will get some squash from them. I would assume because they are a night bloomer, that's why they have a difficulty getting pollinated. So tonight I might try to come out and pollinate this flower. I know in this area I planted a pumpkin plant near where these guys are sticking out, but I'm not too sure if these are pumpkins or not because they do have a slightly different shape, so it's possible they might be something else. And just a little peek into the jungle. I believe I have failed to mention that I now have a fence around my garden. So getting into certain places in the garden has become a wee bit more difficult. And now, since all the squash you can see clearly are growing far from where they started, right along the tomato line here. So I need to trim out some of these larger leaves right at the base of the plant so I can get in there to my tomatoes. Originally, I was thinking that this was the same variety as that really massive one, but as this other one is beginning to develop, I think they are a different variety. I think this one might be a kabocha. I think that's what I was seeing. It looks like it's starting to look a lot more like that, and the other one is looking much larger and very different. And the sun has finally decided to come out. Oh, lovely. My tree tomatoes seem to be doing quite well. I'm just starting to see some color and some ripe ones in there. Oh, looks like there's a ripe one there. So my melons are doing very well. I'm just starting to thin that patch. You can see all the stuff that I pulled out of there, and some of it I already cut up. But I'm just really trying to focus focus the growing attention on the few melons that are formed. It seems like just about every day the melons seem to be doubling in size. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm really, really hopeful that I will get some melons, at least a few this year. This end of the garden is where the fence makes everything a little bit more tricky to access. And here's my beautiful trellis. And this was something that we picked up free off Kijiji. Also, all of the snow fence around the garden we picked up for $40 from someone used. Most of the fence posts we had, some of them were made from different posts that we've picked up from free deck and fence boards. I recently planted zucchinis, doing pretty well. It's got some little flower buds on it, and so does my ground cherry. And my tomatoes, of course, are just going absolutely bonkers. Another plant that's been doing really, really well in the garden are my huckleberries. You can see some really nice dark berries on the plant in there, so I'll hopefully have a harvest soon. But yeah, look at those clusters. Before I had this in the ground, the plant was producing some berries, and each of the berries was a fourth of the size of one of those berries. My beautiful zucchini plant is still producing lots of big zucchinis. My tiny little cucamelon plants are still growing happily. This one's right through the tomato plant. There we go. I've gotten a few little fruits off them, but hopefully next year I will have a lot more plants and a much bigger harvest. My eggplants are doing well. There's lots of purple flowers on there. And there is my first eggplant. Well, what will be my first eggplant. And this mound of squash plants, I believe that one mystery one is some type of pumpkin. Lots of what I'm seeing on there is starting to look very pumpkin-sized. From the other plants, I'm definitely seeing lots and lots of butternut-looking squash. And I'm starting to see lots and lots of ripe little tomatoes. It's also really nice finally having some marigolds in the garden. It's a little hard to tell, but I have begun to start to cut back my tomatoes to promote them ripening the tomatoes that are already formed. Some of the squash from the mound are already getting quite large. And it looks like some of the pumpkins are starting to get a bit of color. It also appears that one of my paste tomato plants is not like the others. So I have another mystery in the garden. My pepper plants have been doing a lot better since I trimmed them, except now there's squash just completely consuming them, so I need to go back through and remove some of those squash leaves. Ooh, looks like I should pick that pepper. And it's just kind of funny, all the squash that are forming on this side of the garden. That's one of the Cucuzi Italian summer squash that is growing up over the fence there. See the dried up white flower. And this is one of the only squash plants that I have that has soft leaves. The rest of them are very spiky. Down here you can see the base of my okra plant, which is huge, and all of those mushrooms. And it is a very big, healthy looking plant, yet I have gotten not a single okra pod out of it. And it looks like I finally got a few buds coming in. But yeah, all I heard was how abundant the harvest and crop was from these plants, and I have yet to get a single okra pod. My tomatillos have been doing really, really well. I've been getting a good little harvest off of them every day now. My sweet potatoes seem to be doing really, really well. The ground seems to be raised up where they've been growing, which is a really, really good sign that there should be a lot of potatoes under there. It's just kind of difficult to show you how much the ground has raised where they are versus how it is sunk where everything else is. But it's also made me nervous to try and walk on this patch to try and get to my tomatillos, because I'm afraid that I'm going to be squishing the potatoes underneath, which I do not want to do. Yeah, it's been extremely difficult to access anything on this side of the fence due to the zucchini and all the other squash plants growing along the fence. So harvesting has been a little challenging. I've had to borrow the boyfriend's arms, as his are much longer than mine. My potato plant here still seems to be doing pretty well. You can see that the leaves are starting to kind of get a little bit yellower. This one here, it was much more recently planted, so it's got that more darker green, healthy color. And these are starting to get pale. I'm surprised it's still growing as big and as strong as it is. These are my sad cucumber plants, which I probably won't get any cucumbers from, but I'm hopeful maybe I'll get like half a cucumber. My one zucchini plant up front here seems to still be producing lots of zucchinis, but the other one smushed over there doesn't seem to be producing too much. And finally, we're back at my crab. I'm really not too sure what I planted in there. I know I planted some peas, the rest of my onion sets. I think those are some radishes at the front, and the rest I'm really not too sure. I can't remember. I shouldn't plant things when it's hot out. Thank you for watching. Please like and share my video, subscribe for future content, and I'll catch you next week.